It's author, musician, singer Al Cole, from a CBS radio background, now host of the syndicated talk show People of Distinction, celebrity interviews giving high-level public figures the chance to talk about their very special human feelings, too. Because celebrities are human beings, people, and we are all people of distinction. And when given the chance, we will all speak openly about the very reason for our birth, the energy and dedication of what we call love. Hey, and speaking of love, you're going to love these messages. On People of Distinction, we deliver the goods. It's Al Cole, host of the syndicated talk show People of Distinction, throwing the spotlight on the dynamic Dan Tito Davis, author of the awesome new book, GRINGO. Hey, my life on the edge as an international fugitive. Whoa, I'll tell you. Dan Davis has lived 3 or 4 lives, and each with the excitement of a major suspense thriller. And as I run it down, I want you to run to this website and order this must-read book, Gringo. Just go to gringobook.com. That's www.gringobook.com. Now get this. Early as a kid in South Dakota, Dan led a pretty normal life. Then Dan got successful with the weed game. He was making $200,000 a week in college manufacturing white crosses, otherwise known as speed. Then he was set up on a phony charge by his childhood friend. Facing 30 years, Dan slipped into Mexico not knowing a word of Spanish. He became known as Tito and began a 13-year odyssey that led him to an underground hideout for a cartel in Colombia. He was interrogated in Cuba and just finished up a 10-year prison sentence. And even through all of the tough experiences, Dan Tito Davis still leads a life of hope. I'll tell you, he never gives up, and that is a big part of his book, too. Positivity. And if you want to know his secret, then you gotta run to this website and order Gringo, My Life on the Edge as an International Fugitive. Just go to gringobook.com. That's www.gringobook.com. It's Al Cole. We're here on People of Distinction, the talk show that edifies as it entertains and informs. I tell you, you're going to love those messages. Hey, I'm also the author of the exciting new book, Al Cole, Romance for Women. I'll tell you, at last a book of sensual love poetry to women and the needed spiritual relationship guidance to both women and men. Happy to say that my book, Al Cole, Romance for Women, is now available on Kindle, and I'd like to thank all of my Al Cole-holics who have bought it and also benefited from it, too. That's Al Cole, Romance for Women, ALCOLE, Romance for Women, now available on Kindle. Thousands and thousands of women, guys too, listen to my talk shows, People of Distinction, every week, and they contact me with their questions, reflections, and comments at alcoholic@gmail.com. You heard me right there. That's ALCOLEHOLIC@gmail.com. So without any further ado, hey, we get into it. Hey, it's syndicated radio talk show host, author, singer Al Cole, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. I come from CBS Radio. My shows are nationally syndicated, and I've helped to pave the way to treating women, guys too, with the dignity that they deserve. With my new book, it's called The Spirit of Romance, and The Spirit of Romance is subtitled The Loving Relationship that we all enter into with life itself. Now get that. We enter into a beautiful spiritual and loving relationship with life. Hey, what else is there? And that makes us people of distinction right from the get-go. That's why I titled my show People of Distinction, because we all have that basic elevation that we can look for in our life through love. And I'm going to give you the best example in the world, people. When you were first born, you said to yourself, whether you remember or not, and we don't remember this, but we can identify. When you were first born, you said, wow, I made it. I'm here. I'm alive. And guess what? That is saying, hey, the greatest blessing in the world is to be alive at all. Now, that's a loving relationship that you enter into life right from the get-go. And then after that, hey, if you have some downhill things that happen in your life, if there are some problems that happen, what you can always do to maybe recharge those batteries is take some alone time. Get to know the reason for your birth again. Get to know, refocus on maybe some of the love that you've given, some of the love that you've received throughout your life. I guarantee it's going to help to elevate you for that time. And the more you do it, the more you're going to be elevated until you get back to that little baby again who's saying, wow, I'm just glad to be alive. Whoa, that is such a blessing. And when you recharge your batteries, guess what? Now that love becomes an energy, and you can transmit that one outward to other people around you to help to elevate their lives. Now we're acting out real people of distinction, and that's what people come on my show for. They're brought to me by national book publishers, agents, and PR firms all across the country, and these people are professionals. They talk about how their professional achievements have helped to elevate our human family. Coming from CBS Radio, I'll tell you, I've been really elevated, and blessedly so, with the radio networks that air my show nationally and internationally. And one of the biggest is one of the networks that airs a lot of CBS radio shows. It's the iTunes Radio Network. Everybody knows iTunes. The Apple Incorporated iTunes Radio Network airs not only CBS radio shows, but they air shows from the BBC. They air shows from NPR, National Public Radio, C-SPAN. The biggest shows in the nation are aired on the iTunes Radio Network, and I feel blessed to be in that great company. My shows and also my entire network, called the Cole People of Distinction Radio Network, is aired through the iTunes Radio Network and also my network affiliates. And because I have my own radio network, there are people who are talk show hosts themselves who aired their shows on my radio network for extra visibility of what they do. And one of them is the international actress Dee Wallace. Dee Wallace is a good friend of mine. Dee Wallace starred in one of the biggest films ever, Steven Spielberg's E.T., the extraterrestrial. We've all seen that one. And Dee Wallace played the mother in that, got the starring bill. Dee is always out there doing new film, and she's always in there every week with one of her talk show classics called Conscious Creation. It airs every week on my Cole People of Distinction Radio Network via the iTunes Radio Network under their special News Talk provision. Gets all around the country and around the world. And if you have a talk show that you want to get off the ground, thinking about it, whoa, get in touch. I can tell you some of the advantages these days of having a talk show if you're a business person. You can get your messages out there, and when people know you have a talk show, well, they want to be on it. You can meet a lot of people that way and get your business really going. If you need any communications training, well, I'm good for that. I have my own communications consulting program that will get you up to speed with the way that you want to say things and the way that you want the public to react to what you're saying positively. And I've helped a lot of people at CBS Radio to do that. Can help you too. You can contact me at Cole-holic @gmail.com. You heard me right. That's ALCOLEHOLIC @gmail.com. And I really want to thank my CBS radio listeners for coming up with that handle, Cole-holic. Seemed like from day one, my listeners have been saying, Al, we love what you're doing there, brother. In fact, we're hooked on it. We're Cole-holics. Love that handle, and I'm also an author with Chicken Soup for the Soul. Great book brand. In fact, one of the biggest ever book lines. And Chicken Soup for the Soul is distributed by Simon & Schuster, CBS affiliate. So we keep it in the family that way. Coming up, a guy who, boy, he's going to sound like a family member. He's an everyday guy here with an everyday name, really, Dan Tito Davis. All right. Now, that relates to everybody. The Dan, the Tito, you're Hispanic, you can relate to that. You're not Hispanic, you can still relate to that. Dan Davis. And he's got a great book out called GRINGO, so it's relevant here with the Hispanic influence. Now, he's not Hispanic himself. He was actually a foreigner, the way he puts it, a white guy in Latin America at a certain point. And, well, he got into some trouble here with the law in Latin America, more specifically Venezuela. He was put in prison in Venezuela. And, man, you think it's tough here. It might even be tougher in Venezuela. And he went through a lot of the tough times, the real horrendous experiences. That, paradoxically, can lead to hope. And now Tito's out there spreading the word of hope for people who've been through tough experiences too. Now, that's a great vision, and we honor that on People of Distinction. And if you want to know more, Tito's going to tell you more. And you can also run to this website, gringobook.com. Whoa! How's that for a website? www.gringobook.com. Welcome, Tito, to People of Distinction with Al Cole. How you doing today?
Very good, Al, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a stimulating conversation, to say the least. Start out with a little bit of your background here. Dan Tito Davis. Now, you were born Dan Davis. The Tito came later when you were living in Latin America. Fill us in here. We're all on the edge of our seats finding out about your book, Gringo, and particularly the time you spent in prison in Venezuela. Whoa. Now, tell us, lead up to it here. When you went to Latin America, was Venezuela the first place you went, or tell us a little bit about the experiences in Latin America in general, and then lead up to the point where, you were imprisoned. Tell us a little bit about that saga.
I left the country because I was framed for a crime that I didn't commit. I was a perfect fall guy because I'd been in prison before, and the guy I went to like Sunday school with, grade school, he sets me up, I get arrested, I get out on bond, I'm going to get convicted. So, rather than do the rest of my life in jail, I said, hey, I'm leaving my wife, my stepdaughter, everything that I know here in the States. I'm going south. And the first place I stopped was down in Mexico. I didn't know the culture. I had no one to talk to, because when you're a fugitive, you can't go around saying, hey, I need some new papers. I need a passport. All I had was like a stolen driver's license and a birth certificate. So I need to get some ID. And like I mentioned, I was in prison before in the early 80s. And when I was in there, I met some, you're going to think I'm crazy now, but they used to have co-ed federal prisons. I was in a co-ed federal prison. I met these Latin girls. None of these girls are ugly because most of them were like the girlfriends of major narco-trafficantes. And I had their numbers, and I knew them, and I also met some like high-ranking cartel members while I was in the federal system. I just want to start a new life. I don't want anything to do with these people, with crime, with smuggling, with drugs, nothing. So I'm going to enroll in a couple or several like Spanish schools, talk to the teachers, and try and get, network to get some ID. I need an ID to start a new life. I had no home, man, like no friends. I no job to go to, or no job camp, like out of the country in some, oil camp. You can't go to church and tell the priest, hey, I need an ID because I'm a fugitive, but I never committed a crime. And you definitely can't go to the embassy to get a passport. So after I exhausted anything I could think of, I got a hold of these girls. And I said, hey, I'm down here. I'm a fugitive. I've got problems. I don't have an ID. Everybody with 3 letters is looking for me. I don't need I don't know the language, the culture. And they told me, hey, no problem. So they put me in like the 3rd grade. I met the principal and entered the 3rd grade. I was 40 years old. And so I'm a 40-year-old college graduate in the 3rd grade trying to learn Spanish. I'm there for a while with all the kids running around buying Chick Links, gum, and sodas and stuff for the kids trying to stay popular. Anyway, now one of these girls, her boyfriend comes in from Colombia. I'm in Mexico. And I explain the problem there. She explains it to him. And he tells me, hey, no problem. Down in Colombia, we pretty much run things. I mean, there's no extradition. I said, well, I got to, finish my Spanish course. He said, we speak Spanish down here. You just come with me. I thought, I'm never coming back to the United States unless I'm dead or if I got, handcuffs on or pennies in my eyes. And I'm not returning. I have no out date. I need to start a new life. I need an ID. So I get with Julio. We end up in Medellin, Colombia. This is the year after they killed Pablo, like in 1994. And we don't go through customs. They've got like a band there, welcoming him and me as like his gringo brother. Him and I hit it off. He took me underneath his wing, and I ended up living with the cartel down there, trying to get some ID. And they really liked me, and I had the credentials where they could trust me because I was never coming home. I did time with like one of the heads. I knew all the girlfriends, and I was a fugitive. I mean, I had no papers. Anyway, I was a token gringo. They're showing me around. We're living like in upper middle class section of Medellin called Morales. After a few weeks, the family has a feud, and I end up with Julio and his brother in a suburb, in a barrio, Florida, called Campo Valdez. And, the Colombians wouldn't even go to Campo Valdez. I mean, pretty wild spot. Like, if you're a mother, loving mother, you don't feed your kid breakfast before he goes out to work. No, why would a mother not feed a child his breakfast? Well, in this particular case, the kid is probably a sicario, an assassin. He's going out to kill somebody, and the mom knew from experience if he got shot and he had a full stomach, the extra time it took to pump the stomach might, save his life if he had an empty stomach, and they didn't have to pump it, so she didn't feed him. And then they didn't investigate murders, or hardly any of them down there, so 2 guys couldn't be on a motorcycle at the same time because the bad guy, he's the shooter. You couldn't wear helmets because they wanted to identify, the drivers or, who's doing the shooting. And after I'm down there, I'm thinking, wow, man, I made a hell of a mistake getting down here. And they're looking, for these cartel members. There's a power vacuum after Pablo died. It's pretty crazy. But I've got to learn Spanish. So I was talking to Julio, and I said, Julio, get me enrolled in the school. He said, man, if I put you in a public university, you'll get kidnapped probably within 2 weeks. Because the FARC and the ALN and the narcotraficantes, they're running the country other than the major cities. The government's kind of in control of the major cities, but there's like power cells of these guerrillas around too. And only time you really moved in a bus from city to city was like in Semana Santa, like Easter week, and then there was a military convoy, and you put your car between the buses, and you had the military in front, back, and on the sides. So... and then Pastrana was president of Colombia then, so he not annexed, but gives like the guerrillas part of the country where they like marry, bury, and baptize, and that's larger than Switzerland. So they're in charge of the country, these people. Anyway, now back to me trying to learn some Spanish, so Julio lines me up with one of his girlfriends. She's a university graduate. She's teaching me Spanish in the morning and going to her second job in the afternoon. I didn't know what her second job was. I didn't ask. I was just, living with her and her family and trying to integrate into the society and, figure out the culture. one afternoon she comes home, she's shot, and anyway, I guess she was killing people in the afternoon. They staked out some businessman, and something went wrong. She caught a bullet, and so that terminated my Spanish lessons. Then I'm trying to get some, some ID. I'm down there for over a year, and I don't have any ID. So, and I mean, it's not like here where, say, a Latin comes up, and there's all kinds of other illegal Latins, and they help you with Social Security cards or driver's license or whatever you need. I mean, there's no other, gringos, in Colombia at this time.
The end result of all of this is that you were put into prison in Venezuela. Is that right, Tito?
Yeah, I got kidnapped out of Venezuela. I got arrested in Cuba, too.
Where it's leading is actually your book, Gringo, and how your tough experiences in life can help to lead others to hope. But the toughest experience, I'm assuming, is yet to come, and that's what we want to get to. The toughest experience is when you were imprisoned in a Latin American jail. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, what country was that in?
Venezuela.
That's right. Let's fast forward to that for right now.
Okay.
What was it like to be in prison in Venezuela? And maybe even for my American listeners, and mostly American listeners here, as opposed to an American prison.
Okay. How I ended up in a Venezuelan prison. When I was in Colombia, I finally got some stolen passports. I'm using one of these stolen passports. I get a hold of a private detective, and I said, hey, check out the name, because at that time, not the most outstanding people were hanging out in Colombia where they're stealing these passports from and then putting my likeness on them. This guy comes up wanted for murder. If I could have had my own passport, I'd probably been better off. So now I said, I need to get another new ID. Now I'm in Venezuela. I get a hold of a Hesteria. Hesteria's person that deals in, transuntes or one-year work permits, residencies, passports, car titles. And I'm with him in Caracas. He tells me, hey, stay with this group. Okay, so I'm with a group of people he knows that's in the division of extranjeros. That's what am I saying now? Where they have they're in charge of all the foreigners getting documents. So I'm staying with his friends there, and they're running a prostitution ring out of there. They're running passports out of there. They had a list, and I picked out 2 passports. They were Italian names, and they were nationalized. And these people are putting my picture on the passport with their dates. Anyway, after 2 days, he says, hey, go down and pick them up. So I go down to pick up the passports. I don't know if Jose, that was the name of the Hesteria, or if it was just a random. There's 2 plainclothesmen that grab me when I walk out of the government building. Anyway, they asked me my name. I've got on a fanny pack and a money belt, next to my skin with about $6 grand in it, and the stolen British passport that I've been using as ID, and I had a national ID hooked to that, like a driver's license. It's like a saluted, they call it down there. Anyway, they asked me my name. I've got some of his papers. I've got 2 Venezuelan passports with my picture on it, and I didn't know my name. So, not a good situation. They throw me in the back of a motorcycle, actually in the center. There's one guy out driving, and I'm handcuffed, another guy behind me, and they think they've got an international case. They take me down to another building downtown Caracas. This place has got huge, high, probably, 12 feet high, wooden doors with the huge, looks like you're going to the dungeon with these huge steel hinges. And then there's another little door inside that. They hit the button. A couple of people answer and they said, hey, we got somebody here that does and got a lot of he's a foreigner and he has some ID. We think he's involved with international crime. They lead me into the Interpol office. This is my worst dream, man. I'm thinking I'm going to the States now. I look up at the wall and it's like the movies, and it's like covered with a map. And on the map, there's a few like red dots, like in the Interpol offices and around the world. I'm looking at Sudan and a lot of Africa, and there's not any red dots. I'm thinking, wow, I wished I was there. Now these people start asking me questions. And what's your name? Well, I didn't know what my name was, and I couldn't answer them. And I thought, I've got to go with my other ID. That's because I've got that memorized, the one with the guy who wanted for murder. Anyway, and that was like a stolen British passport. So I give them that one, and they're watching football too, which is soccer, and then. They take my saluda, not the passport, but the saluda. The saluda is like the driver's license, and they plug that in their system, and the guy comes out clean. Because if they put the number of the passport in there rather than the saluda, it would have come up stolen, and the guy was wanted for murder. But I had to re-register it in the system, and he comes up clean. These guys want to watch soccer. So they tell the locals, they say, hey, this is a local thing because all the documents he has are Venezuelan. And it looks like he is actually British, and we just ran it, and there's nothing out for him. He ran it in the Venezuelan system. So they continued their soccer game, and I go with the local cops over to, one of the jails. This jail, they threw me in, it was in front of, the U.S. Embassy. And at that time, it was real close to the time when Chavez was calling Bush the devil, and they threw out the U.S. ambassador. There's no extradition, there in Venezuela. That's one of the reasons I'm living there. Anyway, now they throw me in a holding tank there. And in the holding tank, it's really full because they have all these protesters in there and me. And they're kind of anti-American, and, I'm British. I wasn't going to say I was American, but back in the jail thing down there, they were feeding us through the bars, and we had they had almost like a Sunday paper. It was probably 80 pages, and it was heaped full of rice. The guard would come, and he had the newspaper there with his two hands underneath it, and then all this rice on there. And you'd reach through the bars, grab the rice, tear off one of the bottom pieces of paper, and that was your chow. Oh, then they gave you a plastic bag with a straw in it with Kool-Aid in it. And I asked him, I said, I have to go to the restroom. I said, what do you do? He said, hey, just use that plastic bag after you drink and throw it between the bars.
So the point is, you got a book called Gringo. What's the main point to your book, would you say?
Never, never, never give up, regardless how dark and gloomy it is. And, what's going wrong? You're laying on the floor. You think you're doing life. You're using a soggy roll of toilet paper as a pillow. Some guy's urinating next to you and it's splattered in your face. And you think, what else can go wrong? I'm in this tank. I can't get out, man. What's the solution? Never give up. You got to figure something. There's something positive. What it is, hey, you might have to really scratch, but there's something positive. Never give up. That's what my book's about, life. Starting over, staying positive.
And I agree. Now, with everything that you've been through, when you're talking about having to leave your family in the United States and find a whole new life in Latin America, and then going through a lot of hell in Latin America, what are ways that you prescribe, that you've learned through all of the hell? Because this is really the point of your experiences in Latin America, leaving your country and your family, and then serving time in a Venezuelan prison, as you indicated, maybe other prisons too in Latin America. How do you go about telling people, hey, look, even after all of the tough times that I've had, it has led to hope? What hope has it led to in your life, Tito?
I'm a survivor. I made it. Sometimes, like I was saying, there was a lot of dark and gloomy times. Long days. Your skin turns gray. Your hair turns white. You think you're never getting out, but you can never lose hope. You're lonely. You have fear. There's all kinds of pressure. You just have to say, I don't know how, but some way I'm getting out of this. I can never give up. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to do that. Just check out.
Tell us that, because what my listeners want to hear is how you have done it in your life, like right now. How have you reconstructed your life in a hopeful way? Like one or two of the points. For instance, people who come on my show might say, I'm helping out some kids right now. I've got my own foundation, helping a lot of disadvantaged kids because I went down that road and I had to learn the hard way. But I'm, trying to help some younger people right now learn from maybe my mistakes. Other people might have other ways that they're doing it. What are you doing right now to reach out to the communities with your message of hope, because you've seen it work in your own life? What is there hopeful now in your own life?
What I'm doing to give back is I'm trying to, work with a lot of the older people. I've been, teaching them how to play pickleball. A lot of people are, came back from Nam. They've got problems. Their joints, they get new knees, new hips, and, they can't move. They've got arthritis. They've got cancer. There's all kinds of problems. And I just tell them, hey, you're above ground, you're vertical. Don't go horizontal. Let's, hit another ball. Let's have fun, man. Every day you're out there. You're below the sun. Hey, look up at the sky. Think positive. Let's get active, That's what I'm doing, just trying to, be a cheerleader for them and have them, enjoy life.
All right. Well, we'll go with that. And on People of Distinction with Al Cole, we go with the things that are positive. We go with the hopeful things that are in people's lives. And with our guest here today, Dan Tito Davis, in his book, Gringo, because he was a foreigner in Latin America. We've heard his saga here. I want you to run to this website and order his book. Go to gringobook.com. You can order this on Amazon. Cap it off with some possibility thinking here, Tito. Cap off all of my shows with possibility thinking in the last few minutes of the show. Let's say that we do enter a realm of hope in our society. Let's say 10 years from now, there's nothing but hope. That doesn't mean that the tough times go away. But everybody on this planet now lives that hopeful life, even after the tough times. Now, that's a little bit different from right now. Right now, there are people who commit suicide after tough times. There are people who, if they don't commit suicide, they never really recover emotionally. But let's say that everybody recovers emotionally from the tough times. We're living a life of hope at that time. What's that society going to look like that it doesn't look like now?
Well, everybody's going to have a, positive attitude. And if you've made it through tough times, there's something about it. You've got confidence. You know that, hey, they can't get you down. You're going forward. And the vast majority of those people, like myself, you want to help others. The other people are having tough times. Say, hey, man, I done it. I might have done it wrong, but I done it, and I'm going to, do everything I can to help you, coach you, tell you, hey, never give up. Think positive. Enjoy life. And depending on the situation you're in, I'm being redundant, but sometimes you have to really search for something positive, but there is something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Got to go forward positive.
That's right. And I'm going to cap it off with a couple of cents of my own to underscore the great sense that Tito was just making. When we are positive, when we are hopeful, even after having gone through a lot of the things that a lot of people would say, oh, there's no hope after this. Well, guess what? We're not always just doing it for ourselves. We might be first and foremost doing it for ourselves because, there's that old phrase of lifting ourselves up from the bootstraps. Yeah, of course, we can do it that way. But ultimately, see, if we don't have anybody to serve after that, if we don't have anybody to reach out to with the message of, boy, I did it, and I can help you now. Helping ourselves is not going to be as hopeful in the end, because we are part of a human family, people. And as a group, we can help each other. Nobody can do it alone. And even when we lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and in very hopeful ways we change situations in our own lives, sometimes we can go downhill again. Oh, absolutely. If we don't have other people around us who are helping us to continually keep that bar elevated, to continually be hopeful. We're never hopeful just once. No. It doesn't happen, that mirror. Okay, so I'm hopeful. Bam, that's it. Don't need to be hopeful again. My life is going to be like roses from now on. We know that life is never just like roses all the time. So we have to reach out to other people in love. See, that's really the message here. We give love to ourselves, and now we share that love with other people around us. The people who we call our spouses, people who we call our children, people who are called, our mothers, fathers, the sisters, brothers, the cousins, and the best friends too. We share that hope. See, that's really the message of people of distinction. Sharing the wealth, sharing the hope, sharing the positive experiences. And we do that with the great guests who come from all of the national publicists, book publishers, agents, to people in distinction, and they talk about how we can share our beautiful experiences. And Tito Davis has been one of them with the book GRINGO, all of the horror that he went through, and still he can lead a life of hope, and we love that. And people of distinction, I want you to, again, order this book, GRINGO. Go to gringobook.com. It's also available on Amazon.com as well. Thank you so much, Tito, for being my special guest here today on People of Distinction.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. And a talented writer named Peter Conte helped me with this book, and I'd just like to, give him a little blurb there.
So until next time, people, wish you peace, awareness, romance, and mostly love.